.5 volts and 20 milliamps. I think the battery is fully charged. It says 100% here. Deviation 170 millivolt. Deviation has actually slightly increased by 2 millivolts since this morning. I have connected this battery this morning with these settings here and let it fully charge and let it sit there with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 balancers active. And the deviation is actually increasing. Guys, welcome back to the Off-Grid Garage here in, look at this crazy weather. We had a thunderstorm coming through just half an hour ago, and now it's the purest sunshine again. All the solar went into sleep mode already because they thought, well, the day is over, the night is coming, but now they are producing 1.5 kilowatt again. It's 5 p.m. And the balance situation with the Seplos BMS version 3 was exactly the topic we have talked about in the last video. And they actually contacted me about 4 days ago and said, Andy, here's the fix for this problem. Can you please test this and let us know? Well, here we are. And as I explained in the last video, I have sent a couple of screenshots and videos and data to Seplos and asked them for advice how to deal with this situation here. And they wanted me to do some troubleshooting as well, send some log files of the BMS, and they also wanted me to measure the voltage drop across the balance resistor of any of the channels which is actually active. So if you can see, cell number 2 is actually balancing since this morning with no result. Even if it balances with only 10 or 20 milliamps, there should be a voltage drop across the resistor. I've got my voltmeter already here, and we are going to measure the voltage drop across one of these resistors, which is number 2 from the top. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here it comes. It's a bit hard to reach. 10 millivolt, 0, goes up and down, as if the balancer, now there's nothing. I would say there's nothing on cell number 2. It is still balancing, yeah. There's no voltage drop across this resistor here at all. Nothing. Okay, so from this perspective, I would say there's no current flowing, because otherwise we would see a voltage here. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. Let's try something different. The good old FLIR camera. Maybe we can see some balancing action on this BMS. Now, even it is definitely balancing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells. Ah, there we go. We can see a tiny bit. There's some tiny activity. Look at this. It's a bit like a firework. This is the balancing action on the BMS right now. They're flashing up for a short moment only. They're taking a tiny bit of power away while balancing, but that's all. It looks like it's only a pulse they're getting. They turn on for a split second and then turn off again. And then, look at this, there's no action right now. Nothing. There's one. Nothing. Well, there's no wonder this is not going to work. So, and obviously Seplos has tested this now in their workshop as well and came to the same conclusion. So the balancer may not work or may be I don't think it is working as designed. So what have they done? Of course, a software update. It is the simplest and best way to fix such issues. And we are going to try this now out here on the channel and see if it fixes the problem. And of course, I'm linking this new firmware version down in the description. You can either download it from the Seplos website directly, but you have to create an account for that, which is free. And then after you log in, you can go to the download section and download these files yourself. I've got them on my website as well, so both links are down in the description under the video. Once you download and unzip the file, you will find 2 folders. One is for the 48 volt 100 amp BMS, the other one is for the 48 volt 200 amp BMS. Obviously we've got the 100 volt version here, So we click on that. And when you download and extract these files, there are only 2 further folders in there. I've got here the older firmware versions as well for my BMS. The version 3 of the Seplos BMS comes in 2 hardware versions already. A version 10 and a version 11 they are calling them. So which one do you have? So this is either explained in the Seplos video, but also in this 1-page guide I made for you guys. So, Seplos BMS version 3, which hardware version do I have and which firmware file do I need? So up here you can see the version 10 of the hardware, and down here is the version 11. So what's the difference? Well, the red arrows show you exactly what's going on. The hardware version 10 of their BMS has these 2 shunts on the outside of the B negative terminal. Yeah. The potentially newer hardware version 11 has both of the shunts in between the B negative terminals. And I'll show you this here on my BMS. You can see down there is the B negative terminal and my shunts are beside the terminal. So I have clearly the hardware version 10 of their BMS. So we go into the version 10 and here's our firmware version file we have to upload to the BMS now. So we go back to our BMS, we go to online upgrade, even it is not an online upgrade, it is an offline upgrade, a local upgrade. Then we click on the start upgrading software, which brings up this little window. Usually the settings are correct, the same as you have set already for your BMS Studio. So you don't need to change anything here. We click on this button. We go into the 84100 version 10 folder, find the firmware, select it, and then we click on this button below here, which actually uploads the firmware then to your BMS. So at the moment we are running version 0.4 on this BMS here, and I guess this would be version 0.5 then, which hopefully fixes the issues.
Oh, look at this. The firmware is updating. Oh yeah.
Okay, I guess this means success in updating our firmware. We click on OK. We close this program here and we go back to our system monitor. We connect back to the BMS and we should see, yes, that is firmware 0.5 now. Okay, the first thing I notice is that we are decreasing our deviation by already 2 millivolt. So cell number 8 is still balancing, cell number 2 is balancing. So let's measure the voltage across this balance resistor again for channel number 2.
Okay, I'm on the terminals now. I'm measuring across this second resistor again, and I still cannot see any voltage here. I wonder if this BMS is somehow coated, you know, with this clear plastic. Sometimes you get these PCBs and they are completely, yeah, like these ones here. See? This is like a moisture protection on these PCBs. And I wonder if this is the case here as well. And I cannot measure any voltages across these resistors here. But let's measure the amps, see if we can measure anything. Okay, so let's try this one here. Line 0, line 1, line 2, and we need line 2. No, come on, just line 2 please. There we go. Oh, there we go. Everything between 10 and 150 milliamps.
Okay, let's have a look right now with the new firmware. Holy crap, look at this. Look at this balancing action here. What a difference. Now we can see the resistors glowing. Because there's actually current going through. Can I actually feel? Oh yeah, you can feel that a bit. Yeah, it's a bit warm, hand warm. Yeah. Look at this firework. Nice. And look at the deviation, it's coming down from 168 to 161 now. 7 millivolt down already.
And look at this,
We are charging with almost 100 milliamps again. So obviously it is recharging the battery while the passive balancer is burning off energy of the high voltage cells. And therefore the whole pack voltage would come down, but the power supply is recharging the battery and keeps it on constant 57.5 volts. And we can see the current is going up and down here, depending on the balancer activity. Okay, guys, this is very interesting because we can also see the balanced cells are changing now from number 2 to number 3 and back. They're all changing depending on which cell is higher. And I could not see this before at all, nothing. It was always balancing the same cells regardless if the neighbor cells was actually much higher than the cell which was balanced right now. But now it is balancing sometimes 4, sometimes 5 cells, and deviation is definitely coming down. I mean, they are still 100 ampere hour cells, so 150 milliamp balance current is not that much, but it will work. 159, there we go. Almost 10 millivolt in probably 15 minutes now. So, to give the balancer some time, I would say we leave this running here for a couple of hours and see what's happening in the late PM. I'll leave the power supply connected to keep the voltage constant on 57.5 volts. So it recharges the battery as we burn off energy from the balancer, and the deviation should actually come down. So it is now 5:30, and we've got a deviation of say 160 millivolt, right? All right, let's leave it running and come back later, and then we have a look. That is exciting. Well, I must admit, while Seplos has now provided a possible solution for their version 3 of their BMSs, I have bought my own solution in the meantime to fix these batteries, and they look like this. They look like the good old, you know, as we have seen when we inspected these batteries here. There's heaps of space here on this side of the battery to put an active balancer in. So why not? But now actually let's wait and see if this firmware update has fixed the issue already. So my friends, I'm back. It is 8:30, so we are balancing for 3 hours now. So we started at around 168 millivolt and now we are at 129 millivolt. So that means 40 millivolt are gone. And we can really see that the balancing is now jumping back and forward between cells here. It actually picks and chooses the cells with the highest voltage and balances them for a moment and then jumps to another cell. So I would say we leave this one running until tomorrow morning. So this test will then be consistent with all the other tests we have done. We let the BMS sitting with the power supply connected overnight and then see what the deviation is tomorrow morning. I have also updated the other 2 BMSs with the newer firmware already, and I could see the balancer is changing now frequently. The cells is balancing the whole pack, but these 2 cells are still so imbalanced they are frequently turning off with a high voltage disconnect. But I'll leave them running until tomorrow morning as well, and then we can do a comparison from the results of the last video to what the deviation is now with the balancer actually working here. Even if it is only a 150 milliamp passive balancer, it will still balance your packs over time. Alright guys, I will calibrate an ice cold SPET now. Thank you very much for your generous donations, and I wish you a wonderful good night, and we will see us again tomorrow morning for the result. Alright, have a good night's sleep. Good morning my friends, welcome back to the Off-Grid Garage. I hope you had a wonderful good night's sleep. We are having another look at the 3 battery banks, the Seplos Polo batteries. I left the charger on 57.6 volts overnight, and let's have a look at pack number 1. Ooh, we are on 8 millivolt deviation only. Look at this. Look at this. 3.599, 3.591. It has fully top balanced the battery, and it has even stopped balancing, because I think I have set this one to 10 millivolt deviation. So if the voltage difference of the cells is under 10 millivolt, it doesn't even balance. That is a fantastic result, probably as expected, right? You can see you can now fully top balance your battery with the Seplos BMS version 3 and the newest firmware version 0.5. Okay, let's have a look at the other 2 banks. Pack number 2. Still 245 millivolt, still a cell overvoltage protection. The balancer is still running here. balances all cells over 3.6 volts. Because why would you balance cells which are under 3.6 volts, right? If 57.6 volt is your target voltage. That makes no sense. More about how to find the right balance start voltage in one of the next videos. Because there's still a lot of confusion out there in the community and people keep sending me emails and asking for the right settings. But let me pull up the results from our last video when we fully charged all 3 battery banks. Yeah, this one here. So this was our first test in the last video. I'll link this down below if you haven't seen it. Where we fully charged all 3 Polo battery banks and determined the highest possible pack voltage we could charge each pack to before one of the cells hits 3.65 volts and the BMS shuts down your battery. And this was for pack number 2, 54.11. Yeah, we could not charge higher because the deviation was so large it shut down our battery. But now we can see pack number 2 is already at 56.55. So the overall cell difference must have come down. And the cell voltages are now closer together already. We'll have a look at pack number 3. Yeah, same situation. Still a cell over voltage protection. So one of the cells reaches actually 3.65 volts. We've got 250 millivolt deviation still, but we are at 56.14. Screenshots back up. Pack number 3 was at 55.0. So we can charge the pack already over 1 volt higher now than before. And if I would leave this running for a couple of days now, it will fully top balance all 3 battery banks now. Here we can see the balancing happening. It changes frequently depending on the cell voltage and then discharges the high voltage cells. So balancer is definitely working now with around 150 milliamps. If this is enough to keep your pack under control during daily charging and discharging, well, time will tell. Well guys, Seplos did it. It fixed the battery, it fixed the BMS with a software update. Fantastic result. So this BMS now gets my full recommendation. Because with all its parameters, we can really fine-tune this BMS to your battery needs. It works with almost all inverters out there, including the Victron system. We can set charge voltage limit, charge current limit and discharge current limit individually and separately without hitting any protection status. So 4 out of 5 rocks for this Seplos BMS version 3 now. And I really cannot stress enough about this. This is exactly the power of these BMSs with the software updates, with the firmware updates they can get. And I said this to Seplos, well, not only Seplos, but all the other BMS manufacturers as well. This is the biggest potential, the biggest feature for your BMS to succeed if you provide firmware updates on a regular basis. Do it like Tesla. Listen to the community, upgrade your software, you have the best product ever. Because the hardware doesn't change, you just need to update your software. And with this in mind, Seplos could easily update the software and implement more features, like for example a float mode. Yeah? When we hit the CVL, the charge voltage limit, it stays there for an hour and then it reduces the charge voltage limit to another set value. And it tells the solar charge controller to lower the voltage. So it keeps the battery 100% charged, but on a lower voltage. That would be a very easy to implement feature and would make this the best BMS on the market. I've talked to Checkipper as well, because these PACE BMSs, they have dry contacts. There are 2 relays on the PCB, on the BMS, which they could make available for programming for users, for customers. And how easy would it be to use one of these contacts here to turn on when the balanced start voltage is reached? Yep, and then we could use this contact to activate our active balancer. I'm sure this can be easily solved with a software update, because the hardware is already there. There are 2 relays, it just needs to trigger the same time as we hit the balanced start voltage. And then the BMS internal balancer would turn on as well as our active balancer. Best BMS ever. Alright guys, so far this video from the last couple of days again, testing the Seplos Polo battery with the Seplos BMS version 3 and the new firmware upgrade 0.5 now, which actually fixes the balancer issue. And now we at least have a 150 milliamp passive balancer, which actually works. And until the next video guys, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks so much for watching. See you then, bye bye. We are making Seplos great again.
I'm still wondering why this problem hasn't been picked up by the last quality control of this BMS. This is software version number 5 now. The balancing function is one of the core features of such a BMS. Wouldn't you test this before? Or do you just wait until customers and Andy complain about it and then look into the problem? This whole story is a bit concerning.